In 1928, a jeweler from Iowa walked into a bakery in Missouri with a machine nobody had asked for. The bakers told him it was unnecessary. Bread had been sold whole for thousands of years. People knew how to use a knife. He had already sold his jewelry stores to fund this. He had already watched a factory fire destroy everything he had built. He had spent 11 years starting over. On July 7th, 1928, the first commercially sliced loaf of bread in human history went on sale. Customers were not convinced. The slices fell apart. Nobody knew how to open the packaging. The local newspaper had to print instructions. Within 5 years, Americans were buying more sliced bread than unsliced. Within 15 years, the government tried to ban it and had to reverse the ban in 9 weeks because the public outcry was too intense. That is how quickly bread changed. What changed with it, what went inside it, is what this video is about. 30 ingredients, where each one came from, why it is there. The story no label tells you. The invention of sliced bread, 1928. The story begins with a jeweler. Otto Rohwedder was born in Iowa in 1880. He had no background in baking, engineering, or food science. But in 1912, he became convinced he had a brilliant idea, a machine that would automatically slice loaves of bread before they were packaged and sold. Bakers told him it was impossible. More importantly, they told him it was unnecessary. Bread had been sold whole for thousands of years. Consumers knew how to use a knife. Rohwedder sold his jewelry stores to fund the invention. He built a prototype. In 1917, a fire destroyed his factory, his blueprints, and everything he had built. He started again. It took 11 more years. On July 7, 1928, the Chillicothe Baking Company in Chillicothe, Missouri, sold the first commercially sliced loaf of bread in history. The advertisement called it the greatest forward step in the baking industry since bread was wrapped. Customers were not convinced. The loaves looked sloppy. The slices fell apart. People had no idea how to open the packaging. The newspaper had to print instructions. Then, something unexpected happened. By 1929, Rohwedder could not keep up with demand. By 1930, Wonder Bread was selling sliced bread nationally. By 1933, American bakeries were selling more sliced bread than unsliced bread. Within 5 years, an invention that nobody wanted had become something nobody could live without. And when the government tried to ban it during World War II, to save the steel used in slicing machines, the public outcry was so intense that the ban lasted only 9 weeks. Sliced bread had been around for 15 years. Already, it was considered a necessity of civilization. The problem with sliced bread there was, however, one significant problem. Sliced bread went stale faster. When bread is cut, the exposed surfaces dry out quickly. A whole loaf might last 2 or 3 days. A sliced loaf became dry and unpleasant within hours. For bakers who were now producing thousands of loaves a day and distributing them to supermarkets across this country, this was not acceptable. The bread had to last longer. It had to travel further. It had to sit on a shelf for days and still be soft when purchased. This was a problem that could not be solved with flour, water, salt, and yeast. And so the chemists were called in. The first additives, solving the staling problem. The first ingredient added to solve the staling problem was fat. Fat coats the starch granules in bread and slows the process by which they crystallize and harden, which is what staling actually is. It is not the bread drying out. It is the molecular structure of the starch changing. Fat delays that change. Vegetable shortening was the first fat used. Later, palm oil became the standard in most industrial loaves. Softer, cheaper, more stable at room temperature. The second addition was emulsifiers. Emulsifiers are molecules that bond fat and water together. In bread, they coat the gluten strands. making the dough more elastic, keeping the crumbs softer for longer. The emulsifier that became standard in industrial bread was lecithin. First extracted from egg yolks, later derived from soybeans. You will find it on almost every industrial bread label today. The third addition was ascorbic acid. This is vitamin C. It is used not for nutrition, but as a dough oxidizer. It strengthens the gluten network, allowing the bread to rise faster and hold its structure through industrial machinery. On labels, it appears as E300. Most people assume it is a preservative. It is not. It is a flour treatment agent. The two are different things. The Chorleywood Revolution, 1961 and 1961, in a small village called Chorleywood in Hertfordshire, England, scientists at the British Baking Industries Research Association made an announcement that would change bread forever. They had developed a new process, the Chorleywood bread process, that could turn a sack of wheat into a sliced and packaged loaf in approximately 3.5 hours. The traditional process took the better part of a day, sometimes longer. The Chorleywood process eliminated bulk fermentation entirely, the long, slow rise during which yeast consumes the sugars in flour and produces the complex flavors and aromas of real bread. Instead, the dough was subjected to intense mechanical mixing at high speed for approximately 3 minutes. The energy generated was so intense that it had to be cooled with refrigerated water to prevent the heat from destroying the yeast. The result was a dough that behaved like fermented dough, without any of the time or biology. By 2009, 80% of all bread in the United Kingdom was made using the Chorleywood process. It spread to Australia, New Zealand, India, and dozens of other countries. Wonder Bread in America was effectively a Chorleywood loaf. A typical Chorleywood loaf contains more than 20 ingredients, frequently more than 30. Here is what each one does. The ingredients: flour, the foundation, but not the flour of 6,000 years ago. Industrial flour is milled at high speed in steel roller mills that generate enough heat to denature some of the proteins. The bran and germ are removed, the parts of the grain that contain the most nutrients, the most flavor, and the most oils. What remains is white flour, uniform, shelf-stable, and nutritionally stripped. To compensate, iron, calcium, niacin, and thiamine are added back in. This is called fortification. In many countries, it is legally required. The nutrients were removed by the milling process, then put back in by law. Water. More water is used in industrial bread than in artisan bread. This serves two purposes. It increases the volume of the dough, and therefore the yield per kilogram of flour. It also makes the crumbs softer and more appealing on first bite. A significant portion of the weight of an industrial loaf is water that was added after the flour was milled. Yeast. Industrial bread uses 2 to 3 times more yeast than traditional recipes. More yeast means more gas produced faster. More gas means more volume. More volume means a lighter, airier loaf that feels more substantial than it is. The rapid action of industrial yeast produces a loaf with no fermentation flavor. Because there was no fermentation, the bubbles are there. The flavor they would have created is not. Salt present in most industrial bread at levels slightly above traditional home baking recipes. Salt controls the rate of fermentation, strengthens gluten, and is the single most important flavor component in a loaf with no fermentation time. Fat palm oil, or vegetable shortening, slows staling, softens crumb, lubricates the dough machinery, also increases the caloric density of the loaf. Emulsifiers. E471 and E481. E471 is mono and diglycerides of fatty acids, derived from vegetable or animal fats. It bonds fat and water in the dough, keeps the crumbs soft, and extends the shelf life by several days. E481 is sodium stearoyl 2-lactylate. It strengthens the gluten network, improves dough stability under mechanical processing, and retards staling. These two emulsifiers are why an industrial loaf stays soft for a week, when traditional bread would be stale in 2 days. Ascorbic acid, E300 vitamin C used as a dough conditioner, not a nutrient, oxidizes the gluten proteins during mixing, making them stronger and more elastic, so the dough survives the violence of industrial machinery without tearing apart. Soya flour added for several reasons simultaneously. It whitens the crumb. The lipoxygenase enzyme in soy bleaches the natural yellow pigments in wheat flour. It improves the volume of the loaf. It increases water absorption, allowing the dough to take in more water and produce a larger loaf per kilogram of flour. It extends shelf life. 1 ingredient, 4 industrial functions. Calcium propionate, E282, the mold inhibitor. Bread left at room temperature for more than a few days develops mold. Always has. In the era before refrigerated distribution and long-distance logistics, this was not a problem. The bread was made locally and eaten within a day. Calcium propionate was introduced to solve the mold problem created by industrial distribution. It inhibits the growth of mold and some bacteria without affecting yeast, which is why the bread still rises despite containing a substance that kills microorganisms. This is the ingredient most people mean when they say preservative, though ascorbic acid is far more commonly misidentified as one. Enzymes. Perhaps the most invisible ingredient on the list? Industrial bread contains a range of enzymes. Amylases, proteases, hemicellulases that break down the starches and proteins in flour at speeds that fermentation would normally achieve over hours. The Chorleywood process replaced time with machinery. Enzymes replaced biology. In many countries, enzymes used in bread production do not need to be declared on the label because they are classified as processing aids rather than ingredients. They are present in the bread you eat. They are not on the label. Dough conditioners. A catch-all category that includes various combinations of oxidizing agents, reducing agents, and enzyme preparations designed to make industrial dough behave consistently regardless of variations in wheat quality, temperature, or humidity. Traditional bread adjusted for seasonal variation naturally. Bakers knew their flour, their weather, their ovens. Industrial bread requires the same result every time, regardless of where or when it is made. Dough conditioners make that possible. Added nutrients. Fortification iron, calcium, niacin, thiamine. Added back in after being removed by industrial milling. The flour was stripped of these nutrients in the manufacturing process. The law required their restoration, so they were added back as synthetic supplements. This is nutritional accounting. Removing something, then adding it back, and calling the result fortified. How we got here, Autry. In 1928, Otto Rohwedder solved one problem: how to sell bread pre-sliced. The problem of shelf life came next, then the problem of consistency, then the problem of scale, then the problem of cost. Each solution required a new ingredient. Each ingredient required a new solution. The result is a loaf of bread that a baker from any century before the 20th would not recognize as bread at all. Not because the ingredients are dangerous, but because the process, and therefore the product, is entirely different. Flour, water, salt, and yeast, 6,000 years. And then, in approximately 1 generation, something new. The most consumed bread in human history. Engineered, optimized, and available everywhere, for almost nothing, every single day. What we do with that knowledge is our own choice. Next video, every German bread type explained. The country with over 3,000 registered bread varieties, and the only bread tradition in the world recognized by UNESCO as intangible cultural heritage. Subscribe so you don't miss it.